I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Beat. Let's get you healed up. Let's get you healed up. Healed up. Yeah. Healed. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up. Turn it up in my headphones. My headphones. Turn it up in my headphones. Audio medic. Audio medic. Audio medic. Move to the beat. Boost. Boost. Oh, this is my jam. Time to accelerate. Alright, it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. Oh, I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Oh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it down. Oh, let's break it. Break it. Break it down. Let's drop the beat. Beat. Let's get you healed up. Let's get you healed up. Healed up. Yeah. Healed. Healed up. Yeah, let's move it, people. Yeah, let's move it, people. Yeah, let's pick it up. Lucio coming at you. Coming at you. Yeah, time to heal up. Oh, turn it up.
And we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to another episode of Off the Wall, sponsored by CGL Console Gaming League, also sponsored and affiliated with SoSickClothing.com. Check it out over there on the corner, or over there, I should say, over the corner. And today we have a very special guest. This is a very good friend of not only mine, but my daughter's, right? So we have here Funded right here. Say hi to the people.
Hello.
Hello. All right. So listen, this is gonna be really cool because I've wanted to do this. I think it's important to do it. I set out to, I'm still getting acquainted with a lot of people in the community, but I thought it was important to do, especially obviously it's Pride Month. I wanted to reach out to the LGBT community that plays Overwatch, and I wanted to get them, kind of acquainted. And you were one of the first people that told me, hey, I want to be on the show, and I thought that was going to be really cool. So, I have you here on the show. And then I think we were together in a party with Leaf, and, it was the first time I actually heard a lot about you and stuff like that, because Leaf was talking about you and stuff like that. So, and we'll get into some of those conversations and stuff, because that's when I learned about you, like the very first time, really. And then, obviously you live very close. You and Minty actually hung out together. You were at my house for a while. So it was pretty cool. So you have history. But yeah, so let's go right into it. Let's talk about all of the stuff, that we set out to. We always start off with the origin story about you as a gamer. So let's talk about that first. What was some of the first video games that you played, and what platform did you start playing on?
I'm a big, if you follow me, especially on Twitter, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan. I grew up with Square Enix. I grew up with my brother and sister, mom and dad playing games. My first platform was PS2. As far as I can remember, I was Final Fantasy and a half, and I slowly became, bigger in games.
Right.
Very good, like not super good, but I was also like 4 at the time I was playing games, so I didn't understand anything. Normal
Right.
people, people that don't understand story or don't interest themselves in story, they just immediately rush to the end. I was one of those people.
Right. Yeah, I totally know that. And that's funny you say that, because one of my earlier games, not going to say the earliest, but one of my earlier games was Final Fantasy VII on
Oh my god. Dude, I'm so excited for that remake.
yeah, oh yeah, dude, I still remember to this day the ending where it's like Sephiroth. It's like over and over again. Sephiroth. It's the same song. I'm like, all right, we get it. It's Sephiroth. Why do you keep singing Sephiroth over and over again? But but yeah, I was a big fan. I played. I mean, that was probably my favorite series with Cloud and everything. And then when the movie came out, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, I totally get that.
I have the movie on disc and everything.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's a great movie to have. It's really well done, and obviously it goes from back when it was the PlayStation graphics where the muscles look like little balls put together on an arm as opposed to the graphics were really really low, and then you saw the actual movie and it's really awesome anime CGI, so but yeah, that was also really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of shocked of Square Enix was ahead of their time with PS2 games.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they had really good stuff to begin with. So you played a lot of Final Fantasy and stuff like that. Let's talk about what eventually led you to Overwatch. We talked a little bit about this before the show started, but tell me a little bit more about how'd you get into it and what led you to it.
I've always been a big Blizzard. Grew up playing WoW. My parents play WoW, and when BlizzCon came around, oh, oh hey, they're Overwatch at BlizzCon. I was like, oh, this seems really cool. My type of game, first person shooter. I played a lot of COD, so I'm used to that type of. And for I think it was my 14th birthday, we got Overwatch. And I really enjoyed it, and I made friends. Back in season one, slowly be part of the community by being a support player.
Nice. So you started off playing the support character off the bat. Like
No,
did you start off?
I wasn't a big support player. I was a DPS player. I was a tracer player.
Okay. So that's what you started off playing?
Hmm.
Nice. So what made you transition over, and what was like those early days playing as DPS? Like what made you want to
It
go?
was back then, since nobody really, well, for console, and I would play a lot with friends, super high players. Um, we just kind of messed around. Uh, like I was playing mostly Tracer, so being how annoying Tracer was, and she only had one nerf throughout the entire time of Overwatch, she was
Right.
a pretty big DPS until Brig came out.
Right. Yeah. Which is a long time.
But
I mean, that's
the
like 2 years of her being almost,
yeah,
you
of
know.
her being super good.
Yeah.
The
So
transition from me going to DPS to support,
yeah.
I would, whenever my friends weren't on, I would solo queue a lot.
Mm.
So, normally you won't get, a second healer. All you would get was the healer Lucio or just the Zen. And so I was like, I would try and pick up a support, and I heard Ana was out, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm trying to learn support anyway. So I slowly, throughout season two, season three, four, slowly became a support player and being super well known.
Nice, nice. You okay? So we talked about this when I first made the introduction about you being on the show. I mentioned that you were the first Mercy to be in the number one slot. Now this was something that came about when I was talking to you, both you and Leaf, and he was like, oh, we all got together and we were all happy, and like you were talking about how you reached number one for the first time. To clarify, obviously this meant number one Mercy like who number one player who was Mercy in NA servers, right? Because obviously we mentioned that before, but tell us about that experience and that time, because at that time you were also on a team with Leaf and you guys were doing tournaments and stuff like that.
I was the time I was a team with Leap, it was I think it was season five, so like a little right before the rework and everything for Mercy came through.
Mm,
So when I hit number one, it was when Dive was still meta, and sure you can say Mercy was still broken and everything, but it was not only the meta fit Mercy because of Dive, but it was really just RNG based. Like, Calico Somber Soul has said, everyone has said that Silicon is very RNG based. I don't know how Infinite can do it. It's just luck. And not only that, I I will admit, yes, I do decay games, even if I do play comp, but it's really RNG. It's
right.
really RNG based.
That's a good point. I think that's a good point in general, right? Because I feel like not just you, but like support players in general kind of get a lot of flack for being, either carried or, you know, getting into like a slot like number one because they grouped up with other people. But I think that role, that support player role, kind of demands you to, it's completely dependent on the team, right? There's no way that you
Hmm.
can do those types of things without having the support of your team. So
Yeah.
like what do you often say to people who are kind of like, oh, well, you didn't do this like that or like this, or just things about how, oh, you're a support player so it doesn't matter as much. Like what do you have to say when
My
you get
train
that?
of thought is like, oh, you didn't do, as this player would, like, you know, some people will go, "Oh, why didn't you kill like Zenyatta as this person would if they were on Trace and all that?" I'll do what I do. It's how I play the character. I don't have to say. If you want, everyone has a different play style.
Right.
Like, I don't care what people have to say about my support play, my mercy play, or any role I play. It's how I play and how I like to play and how I'll constantly play the character.
Right. I mean, and I mean, it obviously it worked, right? Because you were not only, I mean, you can say, oh, I reached number one and stuff like that, but I mean, just in general, you played at a high elo, which it really didn't matter how you did it, like in the sense that how you play, but you made it anyways. Or whatever you did worked out for you, and you got up there. So I mean, obviously, it had a lot to do. Let's talk about some of those early days through tournaments, though. I'm really interested in about that. What were some of your first teams? What teams did you get into that you made a lot of progress with? Like, what were some of the more exciting times?
I think the only team that I fully went was with Leave. I think it was the monthly tournament. Um, Most of the time, I wasn't so big with teams, so my anxiety would kick. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I'm sorry, you guys support player or something, because it was very. I'm not used to that, especially being you know young. Like I think I was discussing this with Scary and Mercy ever ago. How I'm not used to being part of teams. That and Scary's like, well, I'm part of. I'm so used to being part of a team, subbing for teams and everything. So it's normal for me. Same with Mercy Health. So it being on a team especially will put a lot of pressure on you, especially if a lot of people know you. Like a lot of people will know me and go, "Oh, I'm supporting you, I'm rooting for you and everything." And I'll be like, "Oh God, I forgot how many people are going, rooting for me to win."
Right, but pressure basically.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
Right. And so, well, okay, then that's a good point because I don't think a lot of people put that into perspective a lot like that. So tell me about like that part of you because I think that like you obviously knew that you had some sort of like anxiety in those situations and stuff like that, but you still kind of persevered and you did a lot of it, despite that. So, there was obviously some sort of competitive drive that allowed you to keep going and stuff like that. What was the mentality that you had of like, well, I'm gonna keep doing this or I'm gonna stop? What was your thinking when you went ahead and did all of that stuff?
My train of thought was, if I can do this, I'll be part of.
I'm sorry, you
But
got
it's
out there a little
really
bit. Will
hard
you'll be
trying to do
part of
that.
what?
Like main thought,
Right. What you cut out there? You said you were trying to your train of thought. You were trying to be a part of what?
trying to be more like in other.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, like trying to be part of more teams, be, signed up and everything. Like Overwatch, I don't live around it, especially since I've stopped playing now. But back then, I it was the only thing I did really play. I didn't really play any other games. That's why I have so many friends, and so big in the Overwatch community is because that was my game.
Right.
My train of thought was, if I kept playing comp, being part of more teams, I could do more tournaments, I could do more signups and everything. You know, do what Paladins players do. Go to land, and everything.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean that's really cool. And then obviously there was you had sort of a vision of what you wanted to do and stuff like that. So tell me about the transition you had coming getting away from comp and tournaments and stuff like that. What kind of led you to like the decision of like leaving it like in general and not wanting to be part of it anymore?
It was just mostly the toxicity.
Right.
Like I don't really want to deal with, a lot of the girls, they blocked a lot of the people from the Overwatch community that just bully around themselves around Overwatch, being toxic, having the drama. I'm starting to do that because it's really boring, constantly seeing drama on your feed, constantly seeing
Right.
beef, constantly seeing, oh, this person threw my season whatever SR,
Mm-hmm.
have drama about it and everything. It really gets boring and tedious for me at least. So I'm slowly getting out of everything.
Right. Right. Yeah. No. That's a great segue to kind of what I wanted to talk to you about, because you're not alone in the fact that there's so much toxicity that kind of is off-putting for a lot of players in Overwatch. There's a lot of people who feel the same way. But you're also in a unique perspective where I feel like this, well, not just this, but not just Overwatch, but a lot of gamers in general seem to be, you know, very very homophobic, or very, it always seems to be like the slur to go to for a lot of gamers. Did you have the experience where it wasn't just toxicity like that everybody goes through, but maybe toxicity that you went to specifically because people were homophobic or anything?
Nobody actually knew my sexuality.
Oh,
They
okay.
sure people like, oh, unfunded, were, oh, he's gay because he's dated, a few guys and whatnot. A lot of people don't really know about me fully. Like, sure,
Right.
my friends that I talk to, almost every day on Xbox know me, but
Right.
some people are like, people would just immediately go, oh, this girl's dated just guys before,
Right.
so she isn't bi, like she says she's straight, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, that
I'm like, I've told everyone I'm bi, but I'm mostly into dudes. The reason being
right.
because, I'm picky with women. I'm a personality.
Right. Right. And I mean, that's obviously, I mean, I think that now there's a generation where I think now gender is more fluid than it was, because like I'm old, right? But back when I was younger, it wasn't as fluid as it is now. And I think that now there's a lot more there's a lot more people who are a little more understanding and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that there's a lot more fluidity in genders, right? And I think that has a lot to do with, like, just being a little more open-minded and stuff like that. But I also think that, like, for as many people as there are that, I have also seen other people who are the complete opposite. I mean, it seems to me like there's a growing number of people who play DPS who are also like kind of really toxic, and I don't know if it has to
Yeah.
do with the fact that, like, see, it's hard for me to like correlate a role or a position in the game with how people are, mentally. But it doesn't, it seem weird that, like, there's so many people who are toxic, and a lot of them are DPS. Some of them are tanks as well. Not That's not to say, but like for example, I've never had a problem with another Lucio, ever. Like, for the most part. I don't have a lot of problems with a lot of Mercies either. But then again, I know a lot of Mercies who do have problems with each other, and I know a lot of female Mercies, and I know a lot of people who dislike a lot of Mercies. But for you, what do you think there is has it been something where it's always been because of the role, or do you think that just Overwatch just breeds toxicity because of the way the competitive
I
mode
don't
is?
think it's mostly the role. I mean, sure, there'll be drama of, oh, hey, I'm the best at this character and whatnot. I don't think anyone's the best at any character. Sure, you hit number one on Overwatch, or go ahead and say that you hit number one on Overbuff. Overbuff doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Everyone has said that Overbuff does not mean a single thing. Any stat, anybody can outpass very easily. It
Right.
doesn't matter. There's no number one McCree. There's no number one Tracer. Everyone can
Right.
beat those like things.
Right. And I think that also it should put into perspective that, like, I think support players also get the most flack out of a lot of positions, especially Mercies. I feel like Mercies always get the but as somebody who is not necessarily great at Mercy personally and tries to learn the character, I mean, the character really is all about positioning, is all about, like, making good plays out of, it's less about being mechanically skilled at shooting things and more about game sense and positioning, right? And I think a lot of people don't
I
take that
mean,
into account.
the thing is, you take two characters. You take Ana, you take Mercy. One, Ana takes positioning skill, aiming, everything, where Mercy takes positioning and mechanical skills. Those two characters are totally different and need different type of things, but Mercy, people are like, oh, Mercy's super easy and everything.
Yeah.
Why don't you play Mercy at a super high GM game or like tournament where you're constantly focused?
Yeah.
You're constantly,
Oh, hold on. We might have lost Funded here for a second, so bear with us until Funded comes back. There we go. It looks like Funded's gonna come back here. There we go. There we go. He's back.
oh boy, this will be fun.
But yeah, no, I totally understand where you're coming from, right? There's a different perspective on each character and stuff like that. I do think that Mercies do get a lot of flack where it's like, oh, you reached number 1 because you were playing Mercy, all you have to press is RT or something, right? As opposed to people who like, no, there's more to the character than just that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like Reaper, oh, some people might only play the game, or oh, hey, they just pressed Y and killed every.
yeah. Yeah.
Like oh, Zen pressed Y and and grab and whatnot, but no, there's more to other characters. Oh boy, this connection issues. Gotta love them. But yeah, I just think that everyone needs to realize that all the characters are hard. Especially like Mercy needs mechanical skills. She needs positioning.
Positioning, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. But she needs it the most because she has res that can change it. Sure, she might only have one person, but oh hey, McCree's dead up top. I'm still alive. I can res him, and he can high noon.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Mercy's always been a game-changing character. And
Since
even
beta.
since beta. I mean, the fact that res was so. I mean, you could res an entire team at one point with Mercy, right? And that was huge.
She could res back in beta. She could be in spawn and res from spawn.
Yeah, no, that's ridiculous.
A lot of people were like, oh, Mercy was OP back then. Honestly, I didn't have an issue with her until she got those invincibility frames, which weren't needed. They were definitely not needed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So okay, so let's talk about that, about Mercy, because I think that's an interesting point. I think that talk to me about the transition that Mercy has gone through. What do you think about her journey as far as a character and her buffs and nerfs and stuff like that? What do you think has been the best iteration of Mercy so far?
I think the best one was before, not during, right after Triple Tank died. Anna's grenade got nerfed, so she wasn't as shined until the invincibility frames, because pharmacy was still a big thing.
Right.
I just think that people need but when she got her reworked Valkyrie, she was really overpowered. She was the main support. If you did not have a Mercy, you would lose.
Right.
Before her rework, she was the whole, okay, we're gonna bait res out with one or two ults, and then we're gonna grab, and then we're gonna wipe the entire team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, I'm perfectly fine with people complaining. I'm not gonna stick up for a character because I know it's completely bull. There isn't res in any other game but Overwatch, because some people don't know how to balance it. Some people will make it stupidly OP. Some people, honestly, she didn't need the invincibility frames, and the rework is right now Mercy. The meta, people are like, oh, Mercy needs a buff, when no, it's the meta. It's really just because of the triple support and everything.
Right, and I mean, specifically now in the bunker meta, she's huge, right? Because a lot of people play Bastion, and even this Clockwork comp that's been coming out, like a lot more. Mercy has been used to substitute for triple DPS and be a solo healer because she could heal a lot of squishies at the same time. And like it's a lot easier for people to complain about the character when the character is meta as opposed to overpowered. Like I do feel like you are right about how the invincibility part of her res was kind of overpowered, right? Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was definitely overpowered. And like those types of situations, absolutely she needed to be nerfed. But like I think now, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think now is probably her best iteration because I think she
She
is
didn't need the
balanced.
healing nerf, honestly,
Right.
because nobody was complaining about her, and then Blizzard nerfed healing. Why?
Yeah.
Nobody was complaining about her. Like,
Right. And she wasn't meta really at that time either. Like
yeah,
uh
that's the other thing. She wasn't really meta because of, dragons and all this. But I honestly, me and one of my friends, we constantly say how if they would rework Mercy, I think Valkyrie now is really boring because it's just like you press Y. Sure, if there's a sniper, you constantly have to move. You're behind walls and all that, but you just kind of press Y and you're in spectator mode. You know,
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about it that way. I mean, Valkyrie does have its
I
benefits,
mean, sure,
but
you have 60, and you have an AoE and all this, and especially how bunker meta is with Orisa, you can damage boost the Bastion plus everyone else, but without bunker, Mercy just is let me press Y and I'm in spectator mode.
right. Yeah, yeah. That's true. Okay, so let me ask you this. What about Valkyrie now do you think makes her how okay, let's say how do you use Valkyrie now as an ultimate, because I've heard so many people talk about it and a lot of people don't really know exactly how to do you use it. Do you use it as a preemptive defense or do you engage with it or
I don't
like
I don't think I see Mercy now as a Zen. Like sure, Zen's also a defensive ult because of the transcendence and everything, but I honestly think Valkyrie is a pushing ult, aka you hit Y before that fight hits, and you can AoE heal and damage boost everyone.
yeah, yeah, I mean, that's almost like having the Orisa ult, but like it's moving,
Yeah,
and
not only that, like some like before the rework and everything, um, Mercy players were just pocket Genji. Now they can just press Y and they're perfectly safe. Mercy's perfectly safe.
yeah. What
Like,
about using Mercy Valkyrie offensively? I've seen a lot of people do that. One of the things that was buffed about her was that when she is in Valkyrie, she doesn't have to reload. She has unlimited ammo pretty much. What do you say about
I
people
mean,
using it that way? What?
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's okay. Hey, I'm gonna go kill a sniper, which you can do freely because of the increased movement speed. But I'm perfectly fine with it because in the PTR, she had increased damage, she had increased attack, shoot speed and everything. I It's much better than PTR, but we could have completely avoided the situation if Mercy didn't have the invincibility, frames.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's a what do you see? I'm sure you probably have noticed there's a lot of people who use Mercy in certain ways. What do you think is often done wrong with Mercy that when you look at it you're like, oh, they're playing it wrong. I wouldn't play it like that. What's your take on Mercy sometimes, from your point of view?
I Sometimes people will only pocket one person like that. That no, I've seen it in quick play. Okay, you can quick. I don't care. But when comp, oh, you're only talking, a Genji when he doesn't have Blade. Only talking an MK Widowmaker and all this.
Right.
Like that's really, that's how you get blamed for. I honestly think how they just some things they do wrong. Some people don't. Oh crap! I should have not done this. You know, I've said this a lot.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. I don't know if you're coming back yet, but
Oh,
we lost you there for a second.
connection issues.
Connection. Yeah. Sorry.
Connection issues.
There we go. There we go. We're coming back. We're coming back. It's still a better connection issues than we would with Dankist. So just to let everybody know, we also have. I just wanted to reference this because we also have in chat now. Her name's I always mess this up. Ori. I like to call her Charm Cloud. Right. She has been talking in chat this whole time, and she mentioned. She mentioned how excited she was about the interview because of, I guess she's been following you for a while there. But also because she was making a few good points. I want to mention them. She said earlier before, she feels like DPS players feel like they're doing the most for their team, and they think that their role is the most important. There is sort of an aspect of DPS players.
Supports are the most important.
Yeah, and I feel that way too, but I don't know necessarily if I feel that way because I play support, or do you think that because I know that, I mean, role wise, I think DPSs feel like they're the most important, and I know that if you ask the DPS, they'll say that they're the most important. But what's the case for support players? What do you think? What do you tell people?
I honestly think the support players are more important because if a team didn't have support and didn't have any type of healing, where would the DPS?
True. True. I mean that is absolutely.
I mean you can say the same thing about tanks. Or hey, what would be support and DPS if they didn't have tanks to block all the damage and everything?
Right.
But supports do the most for the heal. They damage boost. They protect the DPS. They protect the heal the tank.
Right.
People, support is the most important role in Overwatch.
Right. I mean a good. Well, and here's the thing too. I've always heard this. A good DPS is easier to find than a good support, right? Because bad support is kind of all over the place. You can find bad support players all over the place.
Yeah,
but
you can spot one very.
Right, and I think it's hard for I've queued a lot of times where people pick Mercy, and sometimes I'm like, dude, you just don't know how to use Mercy. Like, I never got healed, and or this person never got healed.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to spot, as opposed to DPS players where I feel like for the most part, like, you either kill things or you don't, right? And if you kill things, that's great. That's your job. You're doing it. It's fine. And if you don't kill things, then you're just terrible at your role. You're not doing very well, and you should probably swap off. But,
I think for DPS, as long as you're trying to tanks are supposed to be making the room for the support for the DPS.
Right.
But the DPS should try and do as much as they. Oh, hey, I gotta pick. Okay, that's fine. They're staggered. They don't have a mercy. They can't res that. They oh hey, I got the shield down. Reinhardt's recharging and everything. So, I honestly think DPS and support are pretty big in Overwatch, but in my opinion, support is the highest because you really need to make sure those supports stay alive.
Right. Absolutely. Let's move on to a different topic that I kind of want to talk about because I've seen a lot of this go on, and
Before we move on to the topic,
okay, go ahead.
get the webcam working.
Oh, get the webcam working. All right. Yeah, no problem.
Right back.
All right, no problem. We'll get the camera working for Funded here in a bit. Before I do so, I want to remind everybody that if anybody has any questions at the end for Funded, write them in chat. I'll let them know, as long as they're good questions and not troll questions or anything. Not that we have any of those here, but there we go. He's back.
There we go.
Nice. All right, so moving on. I think that one of the most important things that I wanted to talk about too, because I think that Overwatch, especially if you're on Twitter, Overwatch at the highest level has always had drama, toxicity, and just overall people who are not nice to each other for some reason, right? And this community is exceptional in the sense that like there always seems to be drama all the time for no reason. So, you know, I think it's really hard for a lot of people to get into Overwatch if they see the community that way. What do you have? What would you say to somebody who is a lot younger and trying to get into the community and is decent and is trying to climb the ranks and stuff like that, and might be like shy or might be, you know, have anxiety and stuff like that and go against a community that's kind of toxic?
In my opinion, if they're gonna try and get into the community, let's say trying to at least end GM for, this season, season 16, they want to end at least GM one season. Ignore what other people have to say about you and try your best, because everyone needs that mindset, because everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna worry about how I play, I'm gonna worry about how other people play, because that's always who they are.
Right.
Like, oh, let's, normal. I have a few Reinhardt players that are Diamond Master. They haven't really hit GM. Some people call them good, some call them bad. I honestly, if people call you good, then you stay with those people and you block out the negative. That's what I do. I got constantly blamed for being a bad Mercy, but support player. But look at me now. I'm still being mentioned a lot by people. I'm still being called one of those best supports in Overwatch and whatnot. So try and do your best and try and get as trying to hit your goal.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned before, I don't know if you could hear me, but I mentioned before that in chat we had, I know her as Charm Cloud, but she changed her name to Ari. I know she probably changed her name before that, so you might have known who she was or something. She was a top 500 Mercy who kind of left for the same reason. She was there was a lot of toxicity going on, and she still plays every now and then, but she's definitely more of a Fortnite player now, I think. But like I think that like that was kind of part of it, is that I kind of saw that at some point where she was top 500 and then people would have that toxicity towards her and stuff like that, and I think that kind of definitely lures a lot of people away. And I think, and don't get me wrong, I think that a lot of that has to do with a lot of support players, because I think support players for the most part are a little like more nicer in the community than I
know a lot of support players that are super nice, unless like you pick on them or their friends or like the people they really about, then you see that mean side. Like normally people don't see the the very like they don't see me pissed off, they don't see like they usually see me super nice, super kind and everything. You can ask almost everyone on Twitter how they'll have a rough week, and I'll see what's wrong with them and everything. Some people like support play, like DPS and tank players are mostly the toxic in this community. Support players are usually
yeah. I mean, I have a whole group chat with a bunch of Lucios, and we don't ever fight ever because we don't. I mean, we're all friends with each other. Like I don't ever have anything bad to say about any of the support players. It's usually a lot of DPS and tank players who are kind of like, toxic and stuff like that. So if people, I think that's part of it too. I think that people getting bullied in the community is a huge thing. I think people get bullied all the time, and I think it's to me, and you. I think this would be a good question for you to answer as somebody who's reached a high elo. What do you think about when This is my opinion, but sometimes a lot of high elo players will talk bad about lower elo players, and they'll say, "Oh, well, you're I don't know, platinum or diamond or whatever the rank that they choose is. Oh, you're bad because of that, right?" And at the same time, they'll complain about how oh, well, there's this person and that person's a shitter and they're not good at all. But like, do you think that also has to do with the fact that a lot of these high elo players who get caught in lower elo games sometimes talk shit about the lower elo players instead of making it where like, hey, how about you let me teach you a little bit and then hopefully you can get better, as opposed to being like just mean about it? Like, as somebody who's a high elo player, what happens when you get into a game with a lower elo and you're like, hey, What's your experience like for that? Like, how do you make it better?
Um, honestly, some people need to, be okay. I'm not gonna some Mercy mains I know are some of them are diamond, some of them are plat. Usually, masters. They're not real known. I
Right.
know them, but they really need they'll ask me, okay, how I'm going against this person. They are Smurf wise, or what should I do? Like if I know let's say someone's going against like Okaniri, you know him being a keyboard and everything. Pretty much the best way is just play normal. Don't try and let anxiety consume you, and just stay out of that line, that widow.
Right. Yeah, definitely for sure. That's probably one of the biggest things, right? uh Absolutely. Let's talk about I think Overwatch as a game has always been real sympathetic to like different communities, including the LGBT community. Right? We know Tracer and Soldier are part of that community as far as the
Yeah.
lore goes, right? So and sometimes I feel like that goes kind of against the player base, like when the first time I heard about Tracer, and everybody was like, oh, they're just trying to appease people, they're just trying to do this or they're just trying to do that. Sometimes when you see that sort of backlash, what's your thought going to when you hear that sort of backlash in this game, which has always been kind of liberal minded in the sense that like, yeah, there's gonna be an LGBT character, and stuff like that.
Honestly, I was perfectly fine with Soldier. They kind of brought that out of the blue, but at the
Right.
same time, I was also like, I already kind of knew, it's like one of those things of like, oh, I already knew that this person was, like this.
Right.
Um, honestly, the LGBT community in Overwatch can be very annoying. Like, I'll agree with some people. The LGBT community can be very annoying. Some gay people I know are very annoying. I have them mute, I have them blocked. Even
Right.
straight people I have muted and blocked because they annoy me. But um, they just really with now times of how open it's being and how common it is, I think they just kind of need to walk away from it, just kind of like, all right, whatever, just kind of brush it off, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Trying to do at least something for us, not
Right.
really giving us that much lately.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think that there's a um do you think that there's gonna be a point in not just Overwatch, right? Because I think that like a lot of games, Overwatch is gonna come and go and stuff like that. But eventually, you do think that there's going to be, because I feel like every time there's sort of there's sort of like the LGBT thing with a certain bias that people might think that there is. Do you think that that's gonna start waning down eventually? Because I feel like gamers more than anyone, a lot of gamers are toxic in that way. Like they'll seem very oppressive in that way. Do you think that eventually that'll go away the more games like Overwatch come out and have LGBT representation?
I think maybe, honestly, it might slowly but surely it will. But the other thing is some people let's look at one thing. Let's look at the COD community. COD community is very against LGBT. Some people that play COD are very against LGBT, against
Absolutely.
players. Like I think COD is the only one I know that really isn't LGBT. Like Overwatch, there's some people that don't care, some people are perfectly fine with it. Smite and Paladins, same thing. But I honestly think that people just need to understand that with now times is just to walk away from it because it doesn't affect your life and it doesn't affect
Right, and I
if
mean that could be
someone
said about not just gaming, but LGBT rights in
everything.
general. Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like oh my god, Pride Month. Okay? If you don't like it, then ignore it.
Right.
It's not affecting,
Right.
like
Exactly. Yeah, and it's I've heard people in even in our community who are who always like they say stupid stuff. Like I heard somebody say something about why is there no straight month? I'm like, be- because the same reason why there's no white guy month, you know, that there's not
Yeah.
like there of course it's not gonna be because you guys have like the year. Like
Yeah,
you know, calm
they
down.
have, yeah, yeah, everyone, like, okay, no offense, I have a lot of straight friends, but but straight people have 11 months of the year,
Right.
counting Black History Month, that's why there's
Right.
11, where, like Pride Month, okay, Pride people, like gay people, bi people and whatnot, they don't have family,
Right.
when, um, you know, someone that hasn't come out, that's straight and whatnot, the parents are perfectly fine with that. They're supportive and whatnot. My mom's supportive. She doesn't care. My
Right.
sister doesn't care. Like, everyone needs to understand if it doesn't affect your life, then just walk away from it. It doesn't affect you, just walk away.
Right. And it's also some people have to understand too, like, okay, so there's months for different for sometimes for, you know, like Pride Month and Black History Month, and there's different months for different things and stuff like that. But all of those things are to bring sort of like awareness to the issues that come up with that, right? Because I feel like specifically to the LGBT community, like people don't realize that, but it's probably the only community that is that sometimes gets alienated, you know, halfway through people's lives, because you know you might get disowned from your own family because of it, you know, like that
Yeah,
doesn't happen if
I know a few stories. Like, I used to watch a podcast that go on for about six to 8 hours.
Mhm.
People would ask questions. Like, how do they, like, open to their parents about them being bi or them being gay and what. Um, which I support that. Okay, like, people can, some people have come to me, with their problems of what's been going on with their life. Some people I know have girlfriends that are girls. Some people have boyfriends that are boys. If it doesn't affect, it
Right.
doesn't. I don't. You know. Um. I just think it's kind of wild that people hate on Pride Month because what, like, oh, what have they done for our country and what they're in the war.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
the only thing I know of is that trans people can't be in the war. you
Right.
know like, some people don't understand how hard it is to be gay or bi. You can be kicked out of school, you can be killed, you can be everything above.
Right.
That's why people are afraid to come out, and that's why they have so much anxiety.
Right. Yeah. There's such a. I mean, there's a lot of times where it becomes a stigma, and people don't, you know, people don't realize that, you know, it's such a difficult position to put yourself in, and it's not necessarily something that you can. I mean, you are who you are, so it's not like you can change on a dime, right? I mean, it's, you know, people tend to forget that. It's like I've seen so many people say things like, you know, well, just don't just don't come out or something like that. It's not that simple. Like it's there's so much struggle that
I
goes in it.
I retweeted I retweeted this. I'm pretty sure some people blocked me or muted me because of Pride Month, but I don't care.
Right.
There was a story. There was a story about how this person was going to Pride Month because they were gay. The Pride Parade. And they had makeup on them. The rainbow, like how it usually is, and they
Right.
couldn't get off of it. A woman had her makeup and cleared it off and everything. The person was crying because his dad wasn't supportive.
Yeah.
That hurt. I
Right.
DM'd someone, and she said it hurt herself. Like, it hurts to read stuff like that. People are, I tweeted out saying how please stop. Like, it's really annoying how people are constantly hating on the LGBT community. Just stop. It's annoying. Please, like, understand how hard it is. Like, some people don't go into research of how hard it is. Like,
Absolutely.
like, why is Pride Month a thing when, um what was it, Veterans Day? Why isn't that a month?
Right.
Do you understand that Veterans Day everything is closed?
Yeah.
It's a banker holiday, so you won't get money, you won't go to school, everything's closed. That's why it's a day, not a month.
Right. Right. I mean, there's a lot of that goes with that, right? I mean, that's a huge support from the government that happens to that type of support. Really only happens in the LGBT community because of what the LGBT community does for itself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because it's not like people are close. You know, you don't get the day off for in Pride Month or something like that because it's not supported by the
The government.
masses or
Yeah.
the government.
Yeah. It's not
Exactly.
support. Yeah. It's it's just a month for them. They can be who they are.
Right.
Pride Month is the only month where people are like, "Oh, I can finally show my true colors and everything." As soon as it goes away, as soon as July hits, first day of July and everything, they're back to normal. They have to hide who they are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think that it just kind of shows how and that's the thing too. I see a lot of these companies. I have a few people who have retweeted stuff that I hadn't thought about because I don't have that perspective. But I saw somebody tweet out an ad of what was it? Somebody was trying to get a. It was an ad for a car, and they had two guys and a daughter or something, and it was obviously targeted towards the LGBT community, and it sort of seemed like a cash grab, and like for companies to do that, and I knew that the person who retweeted it was like, hey, listen, like we're all about companies being sympathetic and stuff like that, but it also becomes really weird when they're doing it only because now people can get money out of it and stuff like that, which is also something to look at as
If
well.
if you do that as a company, I'm sorry, that's sad.
It
That's
is.
really sad.
Yeah.
It like it's I just find it like the person said, it's sympathetic and everything,
Hmm.
but you just need to they just need to understand, honestly, I've said this to everyone. If I wasn't straight, I'd still support, LGBT and everything. It doesn't affect my life.
Oh, absolutely.
If someone and everything. But I also want them to understand how hard it is. Um I honestly think, just take straight people that don't understand how hard it is, and just put them in those shoes. How hard it is, how much anxiety it is. You know, kind of
Absolutely.
switch roles for a day.
Right. I mean, even in chat, somebody's mentioning how they've seen smoking ads that will do that. Like whereas like okay, you're a smoking ad. What does that have to do with with the
Yeah,
LGBT community? You're just
yeah,
doing it because it's a popular thing right now, which is it's weird to me because for so many years the LGBT community was struggling because it wasn't a popular thing. Obviously, people were kind of against it, right? So like to see companies jump on it now because it is popular is really weird.
yeah.
But
I don't know. Just some things in this world that the people are doing just because of LGBT month and everything is really pathetic,
yeah,
honestly, in my eyes. And I just I know I find people nowadays just weird because of how LGBT is now. But I know before 2000s and everything, before it was perfectly fine, everyone was afraid to come out. There's some teachers that some kids go to teachers and they're like, I don't see the girls like some straight people do and everything. I'm gay and everything, and some teachers are perfectly fine with that. You can't show yourself until you're 18, or else you'll be afraid to get kicked out or something.
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a lot of struggle that happens. I think that I've always been sympathetic to the LGBT community, and I think that it always has to stem because my parents always, my parents were always very liberal and stuff like that, but they also had they socially they always understood that when people are oppressed in general, right, regardless of whether it's because of gender, because of race, of ethnicity, whatever the case may be, it's all the same oppression. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, it's all the same type of oppression. So anybody who gets oppressed, people need to be sympathetic of those things because it really doesn't matter. So if people are oppressed because they're gay, you know, those are the same people that are gonna get oppressed because of they're black or Hispanic or because they're, you know, Muslim or whatever the case may be. And so I've always been taught, you know, that, you know, to always be sympathetic to any of those social causes, because those are the types of things that, you know, you don't want to be on the wrong side of history for. You don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, that's not the way to do it, or that's not how you should do it. So
I was always taught, now some people need to learn this, and
right.
some parents don't teach them. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you, I know people who disagree.
I was always told those exact words growing up, and I've stick with that my entire life. That's why I don't post anything, because I don't really have anything nice to say. And I'll say it here because
Right.
I don't. Most people I find annoying, and like I don't care for. Some people are annoying to me, and some people don't find them annoying.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely agree for sure. And I think that that's probably something that a lot of people, especially because the social media is so huge, right? For some reason, people always tend to think that everybody wants to hear everything that I want to say, and people get no filters, and they'll just say something. And you know, that's not true. Nobody wants to hear about, you know, what you think at all the time, especially because people make mistakes when they talk. People do say things that they probably either mean or don't mean, but whether you mean it or not, you probably still shouldn't say it if you know you shouldn't say it, right? So we live in an age where that happens a lot. So yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I mean, yeah, some things people like really shouldn't say. Like some people really just keep their mouth shut. You know, some people have said that, and they'll have drama because of it. And I'm just like, you really need to start drama just because someone's like, keep your mouth shut. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. But Dizzy Wylaw in the chat is making a good point about me personally, about because I get into Twitter abuse all the time, but that's because I get riled up easily for no reason. I for some reason I have this need to always reply back, and I need to get better at it. Absolutely.
Oh no, when you get to like some people, they don't really know me. I've told everyone, once you get to know me, I'm just a sarcastic person, you
Mhm.
know, and I know when to walk away from stuff. Like I've been like I queued with Calico and someone else, I forget who it was, and someone at me, Calico and the person, and I'm just like, I'm gonna mute the conversation. I'm not gonna deal with the drama and
Right.
everything just because of a comp game.
Right.
You know, I'm just gonna walk away from it. I've been taught that, you know,
Yeah.
if people come after me, then I'll stick up for me, you know, like DMs and whatnot, but I'm not gonna make it publicly. You know, I'm
Oh,
not gonna
absolutely.
show up, the timeline and everything.
For sure. That's something that I have to personally learn, because I feel like all the time, I feel like it's true. I always get into arguments with people online, and I get baited so easily to it, and I need to learn to stop doing that, because like now that I have like a podcast and stuff like that, and I'm a little more well known, people will just say something that they know will get a rise out of me, and then I'll just start an argument, and I know that they're winning because they just got a rise out of me. And I think the same goes for a lot of other people.
I think the best person to probably talk to that about would probably be Scary
Scary.
Dragon.
Yeah,
He
yeah, you're right,
he knows
scary.
he knows when to walk away. He knows how to put up arguments, and he knows when he's right.
Right, yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I probably will talk to Scary about that. He gave me some coaching for Mercy, so maybe I'll get some social media coaching from him as well. uh
Like some people my dad has said, oh, it's the internet. You're not gonna ever meet these people IRL and whatnot, but
Right.
it's still hard. So like I understand where you're coming from, but it's still gonna be very hard.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, listen, that's all the questions that I have so far. If there's anybody in chat who has a question, feel free to ask it now. But otherwise, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. It was awesome having you.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and then, obviously we'll have more members on and stuff like that. And then we'll at some point afterwards, I'll have you back on the show and we'll talk more about stuff. Who knows?
All right.
Yeah.
Just
Sounds
make
good.
sure
Make sure you remind me for how forgetful I am.
I will definitely do that. All right, so guys, that's the end of the show. I'm gonna go ahead and rate somebody for it. I think Basic is out there. I'm gonna raid Basic. He's a cool guy. Caster for the CGL, also streamer. Go check him out. Tell him that I told you hi. And guys, till tomorrow we're gonna have Zerby and Queen May, I think. We'll see. So till then, I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Alright, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. F it up. I'm in the groove. Back in the mix. Check yourself. Oh, feel that healing beat. All right, heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Heal up. Healing boost. Oh, I like the sound of that. Ooh, I must have this track on repeat. Repeat. Ooh, you hear that? You hear that? Oh, let's break it. Damn. Oh, let's break it. Damn. Damn. Oh, let's break it.